The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you'd like to join the show, hit me up on YouTube, Instagram, of course. Just look for Black Focus Radio. Don't forget that we are on our way to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so I need your support. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go out and do so. We are now, since our last broadcast, I think we're now at 673. So a couple of you all have went out and made the subscription. So I need more and more people. Spread the word, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to support our sponsors. That's joynetradio.com and ribrub.com. Okay? So that's what's up. I'm David W. Coleman. We're here every day on Joynet Radio, Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. We update the main show every Monday. So Monday you will always get fresh content, all right? And then the rest of the shows are just from older shows that I've done. But the reason we replay them is because they're all relevant, okay? It's amazing because now some of the things that we're talking about, people are now beginning to say, hey, yeah, I don't mean to pat myself on the back. That's not why I do this. But I've been talking about a lot of these things for years. And a lot of people just thought I was crazy or I was just wild and whatever the case may be. Now you're seeing a lot of that stuff coming to fruition. And we started discussing it years ago here on Black Focus Radio. So we've got another great show for you today. And I want you to make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Just to give you an idea, the boycott was this past Friday. How do you think it went? I'm going to give you some of my observations, some video that I saw, which I thought it was really comical. I will say, in some cases, y'all stepped up. But will it work? Will it make a difference? Because the day after, did you go back to those stores? See, that's why you need to understand history, okay? The most powerful weapon was the economic boycott. We'll get into all of that later on. Also, this past week, I believe it was Thursday, I would like to say that I witnessed the most disgusting event. Well, let me take that back. I will say I witnessed the most disgusting event in American presidency. We'll get into that as well. It is not the most disgusting event in American presidency, but one that I witnessed, because this country has a long history of disgusting events from the presidents of the United States as a whole. So we want to talk about that and how the world is viewing us, and Canada, and boy, it's crazy. The other thing I want to talk about is MSNBC. We didn't get into this much, but I want to talk about MSNBC and Joy Reid and why, again, our media is the most important. If you're going to support boycotts of stores, then you've got to support black media, because black media is going to give you the straight dope, okay? No one else is going to do that for you. So we're going to talk about that and how some of the white media is reacting to the firing of Joy Reid. By the way, did you know now if you got $5 million and you are a foreigner, that you can become a U.S. citizen? Or at least I believe that's what they're trying to propose. Little Hands Man is trying to propose that. I'll talk about that. and free immigration for white South Africans. Isn't that kind of ironic? We'll get into that. If you don't get that right now, just hang on. We're going to get into that as well. And before we start at all, we're going to talk about what is white genetic annihilation. Okay? Because I think that's important for us. Because, see, no one is talking about this. Not even black media. I don't know if they're afraid, or I don't know if they are not familiar with it, but they're not talking about this. And as I've stated over and over again, that this is the cause of this fear, of this rehearing, or this rearing its head again of bigotry and racism. So we're going to get into that here coming up here in just a little bit. Man, we got another fantastic show for you. Shout out to Allie. Love you, baby. You are just such a fantastic woman. Appreciate you allowing me in your life. And shout out to all the people that listen to me every day. But before we move forward, we need to do what we normally do about this time and listen to Black Facts. So today, we're talking about the Devil's Punch Bowl. And if you don't know what that is, and by the way, the Devil's Punch Bowl, from what I've heard and read, has some of the best peach groves in America. But the peaches just fall off the tree and rot. Why do you think that is? Back in a moment. It's called Black Facts.
Dynamic Black Facts. Our culture, our history, our people.
Say the words concentration camps, and most will readily surmise the topic has to do with World War II and the Nazis. But this is really different. The hard labor, gruesome deaths, and barbarism here is about the death camp in Mississippi, United States. It shouldn't be surprising that America, with all its black hatred going on for centuries, has a death camp. But what is actually surprising is we never really heard about it or read about it. It is not even talked about in a whisper, in contrast to how loudly the German death camps are being talked about. The Devil's Punch Bowl in Natchez, Mississippi, USA, was where about 20,000 freed black slaves were thrown in, to starve, to suffer, and to perish. 1863 wasn't a year of singular, horrific events, but a year that encapsulated the systemic evil black Americans faced. It was already horrible enough in the North. Discrimination ran rampant. Segregated schools, limited job opportunities, and constant social exclusion were the hallmarks of black life. The violence was both physical and psychological. Whippings, beatings, and even lynchings were commonplace methods of control and had continued on the rise, regardless the Emancipation Proclamation, which was decreed during the Civil War. The Civil War was now over. Black Americans felt betrayed yet again to have trusted that the Emancipation Proclamation decreed by Abraham Lincoln was meant to change everything. It was a sham all along. They had become freed slaves for nothing. It was more or less the same, as they were literally denied all privileges that were due them on every front. This would compel these heartbroken black men and women to dust up and embark a mass relocation to where they had thought would be better and peaceful for them, only to meet the cruelest of fates there, mistreatments they never did face even when they were slaves. In this video, we are unmasking to you a sad history which has been so hidden that you most likely have never heard of it, one so dark that it takes you where forgiveness cannot be found. Before we continue, do kindly support our work. Hit the thumb button, share with friends and families, spread our eye-opening black narratives for people to know better and become better. Without further ado, let us delve in. Somewhere in the foothills of Mississippi, the trees grow heavy with abundant uneaten peaches. So nourishing and big these peaches look that one would wonder why the locals do not eat it. Varieties of tales have haunted the Devil's Punch Bowl in Mississippi for decades, from pirates to plane crashes. While the land itself may not be full of treasure, it is haunted by the history of mass unalivings, terror, and a past filled with hatred for Black Americans that cannot be ignored. One particularly haunting case involves the hellish treatment of Black Americans who fled to Mississippi for refuge during the Civil War of 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 freed African Americans in rebel states, and after the Civil War, the 13th Amendment manumitted all U.S. captives wherever they were. Despite these proclamations, the reality for many newly freed African Americans was far from the freedom they had hoped for. Abraham Lincoln, an American lawyer, politician, and statesman who was later elected as the 16th President of the United States in the 1860s, issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1, 1863. It was a decree stating that all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states should be set free.
That on the first day of January, in the year of our Lord 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free.
But a careful look into the Emancipation Proclamation would pop up some mind-blowing questions like, why did the whites suddenly want emancipation for the blacks? Weren't these the same people who despised the blacks so much? So what changed? And who were the people that stood behind the sudden reconsideration of the blacks' predicaments? Now let us dig in to find some answers to these puzzle-like questions. In 1861, 12th of April, the American Civil War had broken out. It was so intense that the Union was losing most of its population rapidly. Although the population of the Union was more than the Southern population, this didn't seem to give them an upper hand. The Northern states, also referred to as the Union states, had constituted 22 states, while the Southern states, also called the Confederacy states, were made up of just 11 states. In 1860, the entire population of the United States was 31.4 million. 3.8 million men, approximately 12% of the total population, were enrolled in the military service. 620,000 had died, that is 2% of the total population, in the war. Seeing this, President Abraham Lincoln knew that he had to do something. In the same vein, with his astute vision and keen mind, he had come up with the move of acquiring more manpower. Lincoln had figured that the only productive manpower which could have been readily available to salvage the sad end closing in on them were the black slaves on their shores. Abraham Lincoln had enticed the entire African American slaves with emancipation in a bid to get them to fight for the Union. This was called the Emancipation Proclamation, a decree set to liberate all slaves immediately. Things had worked out as planned by Abraham Lincoln. The Emancipation Proclamation idea had successfully lured the entire black slaves and their troops to the side of the Union. These blacks had fought loyally in a 2-year civil war against the Confederacy and had defeated them for the Union. They had fought for their belief in a brighter future where nothing other than racial and economic equality is the order. But after all said and done, the nation they had fought and won a war for was still unprepared to deal with the question of full citizenship for its newly freed black population. The Reconstruction implemented by Congress, which lasted from 1866 to 1877, was aimed at reorganizing the Southern states after the Civil War, providing the means for readmitting them into the Union and defining how whites and blacks could live together in a non-slave society. The South, however, saw the Reconstruction idea as a humiliating, even vengeful, imposition and did not welcome it. The newly freed slaves were faced with an increasingly dire situation now. Many had neither education nor money, being denied both during their enslavement. They were often forced into sharecropping, renting land from their former owners and giving a portion of their crops as rent. This arrangement kept them in a cycle of grave poverty and dependence. These challenges had become overwhelming and unendurable. Starvation, segregation, beatings, whippings, killings continued on the rise. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 loomed large, forcing free blacks to live in constant fear of being recaptured and returned to a life of servitude. In this heat, about 110,000 freed slaves and escapees would be compelled to undertake a massive exodus from the northern part of the country. Many traveled through Natchez, Mississippi, seeking shelter and a new start. By 1860, the population of Natchez was about 6,612, including 4,272 whites, 2,132 freed slaves, and 208 free blacks. By 1870, the population had grown to 9,057, with 3,728 whites and 5,329 blacks. This drastic increase in the black population raised tensions in the city. The residents of Natchez, feeling resentful that the people who were once their property were now free, called upon the Union troops, who were still lingering after the war, to devise a merciless solution, the Devil's Punch Bowl. The Devil's Punch Bowl is a naturally enclosed area in Natchez City, Mississippi. It got its name from the unique appearance it carries, resembling a bowl-like hollow. This camp, located at the bottom of a cavernous pit with trees on the bluffs above, was seen by the Union troops as the perfect place to harbor their captives. According to Don Estes, historian and former director of the Natchez City Cemetery, the Union decided to build an encampment for the freed blacks at the Devil's Punch Bowl and walled it off so that there'd be no escape for any of them. The Devil's Punch Bowl consisted of 3 camps, all used by the troops to imprison these already freed black slaves and put them in conditions far worse than those on the plantations. This was another concentration camp. Men were made to do unthinkably hard labor, while women and children were left behind in the camp and usually deprived of food and water. The harsh weather conditions, arduous work, malnutrition, and poor hygiene would lead to a variety of health problems, fatigue, smallpox, and other insane diseases. Experts estimate that in just 1 year, more than 20,000 freed black people died at the Devil's Punch Bowl. The death rate was so incredibly high that these prisoners had begged the troops to let them go back to the plantations, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. Paula Westbrook, historian and paranormal researcher, explained that the Army didn't let the black people remove the bodies of the deceased from their midst. They just threw down some shovels and told the prisoners to bury the bodies exactly where they died. But these prisoners had already become too tired and enfeebled with incessant suffering, thus were unable at this point to dig reasonably into the ground to properly cover their dead ones. The increasingly decomposed bodies caused more diseases, and more deaths struck the camp. Regrettably, this story, like so many others, has been drowned beneath a ravine filled with pain and suffering. The United States has proved to have a deep-rooted history of racially motivated mass killings that were frequently denied and went undocumented by authorities. As James Baldwin stated in 1963, American history is longer, larger, more varied, and more terrible than anything anyone has ever said about it. James E. Yateman, a bank founder and philanthropist of the Western Sanitary Commission, visited the Devil's Punch Bowl in November 1863 and wrote an appeal to President Lincoln regarding the condition of the formerly enslaved black Americans. Yateman had written thus: 75 died in a single day. Some returned to their masters on account of their suffering. Despite the tedious and back-breaking jobs that were assigned to them, they were usually killed on a daily basis. At least a record of 20,000 deaths of men and women were recorded in a year. Without any hint of remorse or sympathy, the Union troops continued to mistreat these black Americans, not giving them any chance to leave the camp, not even to bury the dead. The dead were buried wherever they dropped, as commanded by the troops, and they had continued dying. As Westbrook noted, the people who dreamed of building their lives away from the master's whip ended up owned, tortured, and enslaved once again. They never got the chance to build their businesses, amass wealth, and provide a good life for their offspring. They never got to experience true happiness, true freedom. As at today, occasional flooding by the Mississippi River brings out skeletal remains from the mass graves that adorn the former encampment. This proves that there was indeed a plethora of death there at some point in time. Not just this, to substantiate the fact that most blacks were killed in the camps, let's take a look at the bluffs in the Devil's Punch Bowl. They're known for their massive abundance of wild peach groves, but these peaches remain uneaten by the locals, even till date. This is because the locals are conscious of the evil carried out by their progenitors. Even though they tried their best in trying to convert the entire chronicle of events into their favor, they couldn't just ignore this truth. Eaten fruits fertilized by the flesh and blood of innocent humans? Nah, that would be way too extreme. Carefully considering the entire happenings in the 1860s reveals every possible reason there should be reparations made to the entire black community, which does not even make up for the lot. There are no questions anymore as to why blacks have been the targets of such hatred throughout the entire history of the Americans. The hatred is reasonless. It confirms blacks have often been that strange fruit hanging from America's trees, as Billie Holiday famously sang. It explains why black people are overrepresented in prisons, why legislation in favor of black progress takes so long to pass, and why that progress is often quickly reversed by what Dr. King called white backlash. A painful yet important truth is that blacks were never intended to be citizens of America. They were never intended to own land, become political leaders, or contribute in meaningful ways to help the country. The Americans never planned on considering blacks as humans or citizens. They believed these people existed to serve and enrich white enslavers, to be the property of those who could afford them, and to be used as collateral when necessary to secure other enslaved blacks. This was why the Confederate States fought so hard to maintain the institution of slavery. The reality of the Devil's Punch Bowl and many other similar camps is a stark reminder of the horrors that freed black people faced even after the abolition of slavery. Abigail Cooper, an assistant professor of history, researched the experiences of African Americans in refugee camps during the Civil War. Over 200 refugee camps were established at that time, with more than 800,000 African Americans passing through them. These camps became places of monumental transformation for black people. It was a time when the black community started to see America not as an enslaver, but as their home. The camps, however, were far from what they envisioned. The conditions were grim, disease was rampant, and people lived in constant fear of raids from white Southerners. Many white people also sought shelter in these camps, but they were treated differently from blacks. They received more rations and better treatment over the blacks. Despite these unrelenting hardships and struggles, these camps would serve as a safe haven, where these blacks could still endeavor to experience what it feels like to be free, what it feels like to not be the property of a fellow human, what it feels like to start up what could be called a home. Families reunited, and people from various cultures and traditions came together. Some camps had access to education. For many black people, a good pair of shoes was a crucial possession. During slavery, slave owners would lock their shoes at night to prevent escape. Having shoes was essential for the journey to the camps, as it was easy to spot an escapee without them. Refugees found creative ways to protect themselves. Some even crafted makeshift footwears from plantain leaves, which had a strong smell that helped throw off the scent of the hounds used by patrollers and former owners. The journey to freedom was long and fraught with danger. Racial terror and lynchings were common, and many black people were brutally injured or killed. These retaliatory killings were often unaccounted for, but left a lasting impact on the black community. In remembering the Devil's Punch Bowl, we confront a painful chapter of American history, but we must do so to ensure such atrocities are never repeated. The suffering of those who were imprisoned, starved to death, and forced into labor to the breakdown in this cruel encampment must never be forgotten. Their plight serves as a stark reminder of the horrors of racial oppression and the long struggle for freedom and equality. As we reflect on these events, we are reminded of the words of Martin Luther King Jr., "Injustice anywhere hurts justice everywhere. We are all connected, and what affects one person directly affects everyone indirectly." This should be a call to acknowledge the past, strive for justice, and work towards a future where every individual shall be treated with dignity and respect. That brings us to the end of yet another enlightening video. Like, share, and reach out to us in the comment section to share thoughts. We're always delighted to pick from them if it helps our work. You'd be kind as well to subscribe and stay with us. We have your interest in mind. Thank you for watching.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on joynetradio.com.
Wow, did you learn something? You ever been to Natchez, Mississippi? That's where the Devil's Punch Bowl is, where it happened in 1863. You know, they like to say that the North was for freeing the blacks. No, they weren't. Northerners benefited off of slavery just as much as white Southerners. Okay? They benefited just like white Southerners. And by the way, if you didn't get it, that concentration camp in Natchez, Mississippi was set up by the North. And you heard me mention before we went into that piece about it's a peach grove now. Okay? Because thousands of freed slaves died in what they call the Devil's Punch Bowl. And in the Devil's Punch Bowl, there is a peach grove. And did you know to this day, no one will eat the peaches on those trees. No one. They just fall off the trees and rot on the ground. The birds eat them. The animals eat them. But, you know, I remember when I was a kid, we used to raid pear trees and peach trees in my neighborhood. We'd jump fences. We'd scope out houses and see when the mom or the dad or the occupier was going to work. This was in the summertime. And man, we'd climb their fences and pull those pears and peaches and apples and plums, load up our pockets, and someone would come to the door and say, "Hey, get out that tree." And we'd run, but we'd have a pocket or a bag full of those apples and peaches. I think that's part of the reason I love Granny Smith apples today. I know people like to cook with them, but I like to just eat them because of their sour. And they remind me of those green apples we used to pull off those trees back in the day. But in the Devil's Punch Bowl, no one would touch that fruit. So, I've said over and over again, if your black church is not teaching you black history, then you need to leave that black church. Because there's a reason why they won't teach you black history. Because they're afraid that you might find out some truths that they've been covering up. We got to take a break. Woo, we started off hot already today. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. Right here on joynetradio.com. Have a good day.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joynetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joynetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joynetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joynetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joynetradio.com.
Welcome back to the show. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And also, make sure that you support our sponsors, joynetradio.com and riprub.com. Now, I was going to start this segment off with the boycott that took place this past Friday. But I think it's important for us to understand how we got here, or I should say, why we are here. Okay, so I want to read you a couple of things because I've been talking about this for a while, and the main the mainstream media will not talk about this at all. Because, they've been saying, well, why are so many white people supporting Donald Trump? They know why. They just won't say it. Okay? They just won't say it. So I'm going to tell you again why. I want to read you an article. Now, this article is from the Yes page, and it was written by Carla Bell, July 4th, 2019. And I want to read you. This is about 4 minutes. Check this out. Last year, white people constituted 60% of the U.S. population, down from about 90% in 1950. It's projected that by 2050, they will be a new minority and people of color will be the majority, a nightmarish prediction to some white people. Senator Lindsey Graham voiced his concern of a demographic dilution at the 2012 Republican convention when he said the demographics race, we're losing badly. Republicans are not generating enough angry white guys to stay in business for long term. Y'all remember that? Graham's comments relay what social scientists and anti-racism activists call white extinction anxiety or fear of white genetic annihilation. The idea of white people could go the way of the dinosaur has been dismissed by some as simple pity of personal circumstance or conspiracy theory. But the convergent effects of new laws banning abortion together, which old laws promoting mass incarceration of black and brown people, suggest that this white fear is not just an idea, but the catalyst for public policy. Whoa! There indeed appears to be a strong correlation between demographic projections, the fear of white genetic annihilation, and the recent wave of abortion bills. Now, let me stop right there for a moment. I've been telling y'all that about abortion. This is why they so anti-abortion. If they could stop white women from getting abortion and allow people of color to get abortion, they would, but they can't. So they just want to ban it all. I continue. Anti-racism activist and diversity trainer Jane Elliott, who has been on Black Focus Radio, by the way, described it as a fear so great that white people, including political leaders, would do anything to see that doesn't happen. Hyper-punitive abortion legislation recently passed in Alabama bans the procedure outright except in cases of risk to a woman's health. And in Georgia, a woman who obtains an abortion will spend the rest of her life in prison. Of 212 lawmakers in Alabama and Georgia whose votes ushered in the most restrictive abortion laws we've seen yet, 211 of those people are white. What drives all this is nothing as philosophical as religion. It's not faith. It's not principle. It's the fear of genetic dominance of black and brown people. The late Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, psychiatrist and author of the ISIS papers, The Keys to the Color and the Cress Theory of Color Confrontation of Racism, is well known for her theory of black and brown genetic dominance over the white recessive gene. People of color have the capacity to genetically annihilate white people, she explained. And unless white people control the reproduction of people of color, we can postulate that perhaps one day there won't be any white people. But Welsing was not the only one who held this belief. Her contemporary, demographer Ben Wattenberg, wrote in his book, The Birth Dearth, that the main problem in the United States is the low number of white births. Wattenberg believed that white people without a change of course would lose the numerical majority in the U.S. and it would no longer be a white man's land. He proposed 3 ways to address this: pay women to have babies, increase the number of immigrants, and prevent abortions. The first 2, he wrote, aren't the answer because they would also increase the number of black and brown babies. But the third, he posited, would solve the birth dearth problem because 60% of abortions are performed by white women. The long-standing framework that once defined a woman's reproductive rights as essentially her own prerogative is being zealously deconstructed to effect an increase of white births over time. Not unlike the legal maneuverings that effectively made a person property under the American chattel slavery, these anti-abortion laws, to variable degrees, take ownership of the woman's reproductive rights, in essence forcibly breeding white women to produce at higher rates. White patriarchal control over the lives of women, but especially women of color, isn't new, however. Since before the nation was founded, white people have controlled the lives and reproduction of people of color. Genocide of indigenous peoples and chattel slavery of Africans and their descendants, a precursor to the criminalization and mass incarceration of black and brown people, are our most prominent examples. Under chattel slavery, African women and their daughters were bred like animals for purposes of economic dominance, the financial benefits and dividends of which are still being realized today. In Unrediscovering Slave Breeding in 13th Amendment Jurisprudence, author and law professor Pamela Bridgewater describes this as intricacies of a practice that consisted of sexual dominance and reproductive exploitation designed specifically to facilitate economically and psychologically the institution of slavery. The war on drugs and tough on crime laws have also made long-standing and devastating impacts on black and brown communities, the most significant being the loss of reproductive rights. Now think about that for a minute, folks. If we're locking up black men, then they can't reproduce. But here's the irony, that even if black women reproduce with white men, you still have black children. All right. Even as forms of marijuana have now been legalized and decriminalized in most states, many black and brown men and some women are incarcerated at higher rates than white people for the same offenses and in many cases serve longer sentences. Sociologist James Oleson suggests that the practice of eugenics didn't disappear after World War II, but are merely repackaged. He writes in The New Eugenics, The Black Hyper-Incarceration and Human Abatement, that imprisonment exerts a prophylactic effect on reproduction. And because minorities are incarcerated in disproportionately higher numbers, they are most likely dramatically affected. In fact, for black males, the effect of hyper-incarceration might be so great as to depress overall reproductive rates, producing a de facto new eugenics. Hello? In Gerber versus Hickman, a California district court held that incarceration of inmates encompasses and restricts the right to procreate. That incarceration not only hinders but also extinguishes the reproductive rights and may influence overall fertility rates. Birth rates across demographics have slowed. But the recent abortion bans favor a fearful white populace. The black economic oppression, along with mass incarceration of mostly black men, means black births are likely to continue their decline. Now, as women are under threat of death or life in prison, the bans could forcibly increase white births under the hope of generating an uptick in the national white demographics. Still, in the foreseeable future, the country will be, as Eliot puts it, mostly brown. One other thing I want to read to you. the ISIS papers, Dr. Welsing described white people as the genetically defective descendants of recessive genetic mutants. She wrote that due to this defective mutation, they may have been forcibly expelled from Africa, among other possibilities. Now, let me stop right there. I got a little more to read to you, but I'll need to stop right there because I want to talk a little bit about leprosy. If we are to believe the Bible, some of you may, some of you may not. But if we are to believe the Bible, then most of the times lepers were what? They were ostracized. The reason they were ostracized is because people feared them. So what are some of the early symptoms of leprosy? Do you all know? This is why when you go and you read the Bible and some try to postulate that the people in the Bible were white, there's no way they could have been white. That's another story for another day. I've got more books. By the way, I'm sitting here right now with the ISIS papers, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Okay, so I got books everywhere. Eventually, I'm gonna go back and I've done it before. I'm gonna go back and give you all the information about my book list, but that's another story. But let's get back to this leprosy thing. One of the first symptoms of leprosy, how people identified lepers, is their skin began to bleach. Hello. That's why Dr. Welsing is talking about recessive genetic mutants, because over time the human body is so fantastic. The human body began to it's like giving a measles shot. You develop antigens to combat these measles or any disease, and eventually the human body is able to live with some of this bacteria. So this is what happened with leprosy. After a while, once these people were ostracized, they were shipped out of Africa, or sent out of Africa. And many people believe, many historians believe, that many of them traveled by foot to British or to Europe and European countries. So I wanted to stop right there to make that determination. Okay? Racism in the views of Welsing is a conspiracy to ensure white genetic survival. She attributed AIDS and addiction to crack cocaine and other substances to chemical and biological warfare by white people. Let me stop right there. Now, if you were to believe what she said about AIDS, that's fine. But here's one thing that I know for a fact, that the United States government, under the auspices of Ronald Reagan, purposely sent crack cocaine into the black community. We talked about this last week. We talked about this the week before. We know for a fact, based on the Nicaraguan and the Contras, that Oliver North facilitated flying illegal guns and weapons to the Contras in Nicaragua, and those planes landed back here in the United States loaded with cocaine. You can go out and look up Gary Webb of the San Jose Mercury News and look at his story. This is the one reporter who dared to report this, and he was found dead with 2 gunshot wounds to the head. The coroner, whomever that was, said that Gary Webb shot himself twice in the head. Hello? Chemical and biological warfare by white people on people of color. This is not a conspiracy theory, folks. I'm just presenting the facts. Let me continue. Welsing defined racism as white supremacy, is the local and global power system dynamic structured and maintained by those who classify themselves as white. Whether consciously or subconsciously determined, this system consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people's activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The ultimate purpose of the system is to ensure white genetic survival and to prevent white genetic annihilation on Earth, a planet in which the overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, black, brown, red, or yellow by white-skinned people. All of the non-white majority of people, all of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin coloration compared to the genetic recessive white-skinned people. Wilson was against white supremacy and what she saw as the emasculation of black men. She theorized that white people were the first people with albinism who were driven from Africa by black natives. Wow, that's some deep stuff right there. You know, I wanted to say all that. I wanted to give you some, because you all have heard me talk about white genetic annihilation, and I haven't put some scholarship to it. I just did. And this is why they elected Donald Trump. Okay? This is why the white media decided to treat him like just a normal presidential candidate as opposed to the rapist and felon and Putin sympathizer that he is. We got to take a break. We'll be back in a moment. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Listen! Did you miss Dr. Ernest Gill from UT San Antonio?
When you're making $455 million off these student athletes and all you can come up with is $5,000, John Calipari makes $8 million a year, and his players are going to get $5,000 a year. The majority of these teams were white men and white males and females. Would this be happening? And I would say no, because their families wouldn't let it happen. But we're letting our kids get pimped.
Join the weekly sports magazine every Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. on joynetradio.com.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. Don't forget, like, share, and subscribe, and join us on our march to 1,000 as we are trying to get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So please go out, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe, because people are subscribing. People are beginning to hear my voice. People say, why don't you get a TikTok? Yeah, I'm still debating that, but I think I'm going to go ahead and get one here real soon. But here's what we're going to talk about this segment, because I want to make sure that we based on what I just did in the last segment, and if you missed it, please go back and rewind. You can go out to YouTube and rewind it and listen to it intently, talk about to your kids and so on and so forth. These are things that our black churches ought to be teaching, but they're not. Like I said earlier, and I'm going to keep harping on this, if your black church is not teaching black history, and I'm just not talking about Martin Luther King, okay? I'm just not talking about the 60s. They should be teaching about the Devil's Punch Bowl. They should be teaching about the Red Summer. They should be teaching about Jim Crow. They should be teaching about all the amenities, literally every amenity that we live with today was created by a black person. You know, the computer that I just read from, the phone that you carry, the stoplight, the lights, all of that, it just goes on and on and on. The ironing board, the dryer, the washer, the being able to get to space. It's created by black folks. If your church is not teaching that, and I'm not just saying during Black History Month, I'm talking about every Sunday, they should have a Black History segment. You should get these young people, go help them to make a Black History segment and get up in front of the church and read that segment. Anyway. Yeah, y'all get mad at me all you want. I don't care. All right. This past Thursday, we witnessed one of the most despicable things in American presidency. Now, there have been a lot. I just talked about Ronald Reagan. That was despicable what he did with the crack cocaine and caused the epidemic of crack cocaine. Woodrow Wilson and many presidents before that, what they did to slaves or Africans, freed men and women who were placed into slavery. I often tell you that slavery is not our history. Our history is how we overcame history. You see, think about this. And I was thinking about this as I was reading that. Think about this. Of all the things that white people have done to black people, not just here in the United States of America, but across the globe, we are still here. Does that support that black dominance gene? But I digress. Last Thursday, we all witnessed a president who attacked an ally in the Oval Office because here was a man who was there to sign a mineral rights agreement and hope to continue to get support from the United States of America because Vladimir Putin had decided that he was going to invade their country. And over the last few months, Little Hands Man and his minions has claimed that Zelensky is a dictator and claimed that they started the war. When everybody knows who have followed this for decades, they know it's a lie. I asked the question last week, what does Vladimir Putin have on Donald Trump? And apparently someone heard me. Maybe the information gods heard me, and I posted this on my wall. Donald Trump has been in bed with the Russians for decades. It goes all the way back to the 1990s. Did y'all know that, MAGA folks? It goes all the way back to the 1990s when he was bankrupt. American banks wouldn't touch him, wouldn't give him a loan. He went to Russia. Paul Manafort, by the way, did y'all know that Paul Manafort, who was convicted of not registering as a foreign agent, who was subsequently pardoned by Donald Trump, did you know that he was the campaign manager for a Russian oligarch? And when he came to work for Donald Trump, he decided that he would work for free. Now, let me ask you a question. What white man out there gonna work for free? It has been profit, I should say, that the reason he did that is because he was doing a favor to who? Vladimir Putin, whom Donald Trump owes money. And many people have suggested that Putin has some, when Donald Trump went to visit in Russia, and by the way, his first wife was Russian, that there is some exculpatory videotape of Donald Trump doing something. And this is why Donald Trump is cowering to Vladimir Putin. But what he did to Zelensky in that Oval Office was shocking. As I sat there and watched, just like hopefully many of you, my mouth was agape. And I know some of you always saying, yeah, get him, yeah, look at Donald Trump's tough. No, Donald Trump isn't tough. Donald Trump is selling out America. Oh, you remember the first election against Hillary? Russia, if you're listening, remember that? He was telling Russia that we need you to go out and try to find some dirt on Hillary. We need you to hack Hillary's servers. Why would out of all the people, why would he ask Russia to do it? See, this is why and I hate to use this term, the lamestream media is no good, because somebody should have been investigating that. In fact, someone ought to be investigating it right now. What does Vladimir Putin have on this current president? Because clearly he does. He'll talk tough to everybody else, but he won't talk tough to Vladimir Putin. He attacked Zelensky in the Oval Office. And then, you know what's really despicable about this? Now, they said one of the guys, this particular guy was Marjorie Trader Greene's boyfriend. And there he was, to show you how stupid this was, he asked Zelensky, why does he never wear a suit? Now, let me ask you a question. Why is it ever relevant, or even relevant, that because the man didn't have on a suit, that had to be in the press conference? And he took about 60 seconds to try and lambaste this man because he didn't have on a suit in the Oval Office. Okay? Now, I saw another videotape where apparently Zelensky called, and you could barely hear it, but when they enhanced the volume on the videotape, apparently Zelensky called the vice president a bitch. Excuse my vernacular. Because Zelensky had had enough. He should be upset. He should be angry. His people are dying, and they're calling him a dick. Let me ask you a question. How are you going to have an election when there's a war, when people are dropping bombs on your head? Can y'all explain that to me? How will you have an election when people are dropping bombs on your head? I'd like to know. Can y'all tell me how that can happen? He's a dictator. What happened last week in the Oval Office is one of many disgusting things that we have seen by Little Hands Man. But some of y'all don't care. Some of y'all didn't even bother to vote. All you folks that are living on government assistance, I'm talking to the black ones. I'm talking about the black women. Now, I know black women voted overwhelmingly in favor of Kamala Harris, but there were a lot of black people in the quote unquote projects who didn't vote at all. You all about to be kicked out of your houses. You people that have these white tears, these Hispanics, look, I'm hoping black people have awakened. I've told you all a long time ago that I'm through marching to stop racism. Racism is a white creation. Racism is a white creation. I'm not trying to stop them from being racist. I want you to be as racist as you want to be, because eventually black people are going to wake up. And hopefully this past Friday was and is an indication of that. And we're going to talk about that at the beginning of the next hour, this economic boycott. But I'm not crying for Hispanics. I saw a video of a Hispanic guy who was literally cussing out Kamala Harris. 2 months later, he's talking about we all need to come together because of what's going on in the White House with Donald Trump, when he was in his initial video advocating voting for Donald Trump and saying F Kamala Harris and F black people. I saw Fat Joe, who was on the Breakfast Club. And I applaud you, Fat Joe. I'm not a fan of your music, but I applaud you speaking out. Fat Joe is from Puerto Rico. And he was talking about how many of the Puerto Ricans was talking about, I'm for Trump. I remember Donald Trump after the hurricane going down there and tossing y'all paper towels. But y'all voted for Donald Trump as if y'all think that he was going to give a damn about you. A man who don't even give a damn about his own family certainly is not going to give a damn about Hispanics, black people. We told you he was a bigot. We told you he was a racist. Y'all didn't want to listen. Now he's shipping y'all asses off like y'all bugs. And now you want to come running to black people saying, oh, we need to come together. If I wasn't on this station, I would tell you how I really feel. Y'all done got farfoed. And look, black people are going to farfo y'all too, because y'all done FA'd and found out that black people are tired of bailing y'all asses out. That's all minorities. You minorities who come to this country are benefiting from black blood. You wouldn't have the rights that you have right now if it wasn't for black blood. We'll talk about that more in a moment. We got to take a break. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices on joynetradio.com.
Hi, I'm David W. Coleman, host of Black Focus Radio and the weekly sports magazine. We here at joynetradio.com would like to thank you for all the love and support you've given us. Our goal is to keep you inspired and informed daily with quality programming from gospel music, news, talk, and sports. Log on to joynetradio.com for the program lineup, and while there, be sure to make a donation. Then download our app and carry us anywhere in the world. Please continue to spread the word about joynetradio.com. And if you are an entrepreneur or have an upcoming event or you'd like to start a show, let the professional writers and producers here at joynetradio.com help you get the word out. Call me at 615-554-0568 for more details. In the meantime, stay informed and inspired daily right here on joynetradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Welcome to Black Focus, the show designed with our community in mind, where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our voices. Central Arkansas, surrounding areas, and the nation. Get ready. Black Focus starts right now. Phone lines open at 855-525-5683. So here's your host, David W. Coleman.
All right, welcome back to the second hour of Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. On YouTube, we are traveling to 1,000. We are trying to get 1,000 subscribers. If we can get 1,000 subscribers, that will open up the door for this program to really go viral, and I need your support. Don't forget to support our sponsors, joynetradio.com and ribrub.com. Last hour, near the end of the hour, we got a little heated. I get heated because because of my passion for people. Now, a lot of people are going to watch my program, and they've watched it a number. You don't like white people. No, I don't like racist. Okay? I don't like racist. That's who I don't like. And if you're white and you're a racist, I don't like you either. Well, you say, well, what about black racist? See, black people can't be racist. They can be prejudiced. It's funny how white people, in their ignorance, use that term and don't even understand what it is. See, racism is a social concept. created to demean, to devalue people of color. I gave you that definition earlier. Okay? Do I need to read it to you again? Racism, white supremacy is the local and global power system dynamic structured and maintained by those who classify themselves as white. Whether consciously or subconsciously determined, the system consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response as conducted simultaneously in the areas of people activity as economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. So the next time you call a black person a racist, tell me what social construct has kept white people from getting a job. Well, CTE, look, if I asked you what CTE was, CRT, you wouldn't even know what it is. If I ask you about anything related to that, you wouldn't know what it is. I'm laughing because I've been watching videos of this guy going out and asking white Trump supporters these very questions. And, many of them say, well, I don't really know what it is. I even saw one where this white woman, he switched the question up on her. He said, what do you think about Joe Biden avoiding the war because he had bone spurs? And she went on this diatribe about he wasn't a patriot and this, that, and the other. And he said, let me stop you. I'm sorry, I misspoke. It wasn't Joe Biden who avoided being drafted. It was Donald Trump who avoided being drafted because of bone spurs. What do you think about that? And you know what she said? I don't really want to get into that. These white people are delusional. Just like there are some who are talking about, we need to have another civil war. Y'all think, and Facebook is taking this post down, but y'all think that black people are going to sit back and allow you to re-enslave us? And if you are successful, do you realize that many of you all are going to die? I'm not going back. And I'm willing to die to prove that I'm not going back. I haven't fought for, 64 years, I'll be 64 in May, to allow my grandchild to grow up as a slave, as a concubine, as a breeder. No, it's not going to happen. More on the white genetic annihilation thing, and we're going to get to the boycott here in a moment. But did you know that now, last week it was proffered by the little man's hands administration that if you can pay $5 million, you can come to America. So he's now selling American citizenship. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. The other thing is Elon Musk. And you know what? I think we're going to wait till we get in there because I could go on a whole diatribe on that. But I want to get back to the topic of the day is the boycott that many of you all, and myself included, participating in on Friday. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Man, there were some things I needed to do. Now, I don't go to McDonald's. I don't eat a lot of fast food. In fact, I haven't been to McDonald's in years now. I didn't go to Target. I try to avoid Walmart, as I've told you all before. It's been about a month now that I got rid of my Sam's card, and I am now a Costco member. So you don't have to tell me to boycott. I've been saying this for years. If it is suggested that you are a bigot or a racist, I don't need a preacher, Jamal Bryant or Al Sharpton or anyone to say, well, we need to boycott. No, I'm just not going to go. You're not going to get my money. If I go to your store and I get bad service, I'm not coming back. I don't care if it's a black or white business. Now, I try to give black businesses the benefit of the doubt because I know they are under the gun in a lot of respect where white businesses aren't, financially. But it doesn't take much at all to give good service. I was watching this guy he goes out to these different restaurants, and he was talking about he went to this vegan restaurant and the people in there were just so rude to him. Okay? He spent like $80 that day, and the people, and this was a black business, the people in there were so rude to them. I don't go back. It doesn't cost a penny for you to be nice. It just doesn't. So I asked this question. If you participated in the boycott, I applaud you. But did you go back Saturday? Did you go and buy the same stuff that you would have bought Friday on Saturday? Well, if you did, the boycott was a failure. Now, there were a number of videos posted on Facebook and social media that showed some interesting stuff. I posted a video a couple of weeks ago, it's been about a week ago, where this white guy, and this is a testament where you all have seen the white guy that was in the store, and that video has been out on social media for a while, who was talking to this brother and calling him the N-word. And the brother slapped him with a can of beer or whatever it was and knocked him down and then power drived him to the floor. Well, this other video, and they removed this video, and I thought it was hilarious because what happened is that they were in this business and this white guy called this brother the N-word, and the brother just beat him down to the floor. Remember I told you we ain't going back. Now, a side note, I wish black people would stop calling black people the N-word. I wish black women would stop calling black men the N-word. Since we're going to boycott something, let's boycott the N-word. It is the most ridiculous, the most evil word that has been ever created by mankind. Yet we refer to one another on a regular basis with that word. But either way, white people, don't try it. It's kind of like that video with Daryl Linda, and he was doing that video, and the white guy, the white reporter, was trying to say, well, your people uses that word all the time, and Delroy said, say it. You want to say it? Say it. Oh, I'm not going to say it exactly. It's kind of like these people that when Elon Musk did the Nazi salute, and all of them were trying to justify it, and then I was watching CNN, and they were saying, well, so if you think that wasn't a salute, let's see you do it. Not one of those white folks would do it because they know. Even there have been people who've been using that salute and now have been ostracized on their jobs or lost their jobs. Hello? But my question to you, and the question that I've been asking for since we came back on the air, it's been a little more than a month now. Do we have the courage of our ancestors? Do we have the courage of our 1960 civil rights leaders? And I suggest to you that we don't. Our children don't. Remember when the Super Bowl happened and everybody was crowing about, the halftime show, and you got all these analysts that was on social media telling you what the symbolism was? Symbolism over substance is what? Insignificant. Symbolism over substance without activism is insignificant. So if you participated in the economic boycott, that's fantastic. I am glad you did. But the question is, what now? You see, all those stores and those videos that I saw on social media where people, I saw one, as a matter of fact, yesterday, where one of the ladies who posted it was actually an employee of Walmart. And she was walking around the store, and there was literally no one in those stores. In fact, there were no white people that she could show. Every now and then in that video, you would see one or two people walk by, and she made the reference that she said, you know, usually there are a lot of old people in here, older adults that are in here. They're not here. None of them are here. Where are they? And she was laughing. She said, Walmart has effed around and found out. Bravo. But what now? What's next? Because the only way your oppressor is going to hear you is he's going to need to feel pain. That's what Zelensky is saying. That's what boycotting all these nations who don't come in line with human rights is all about. Okay, if you're not going, join humanity, then we're not going to support you. Except for Israel. Y'all understand what I'm saying here? What's next? Doing it one day is fine. Target has lost tons and tons of money. Their stock is down. Walmart stock is down. A lot of these businesses who have decided that they were not going to support DEI. And the irony is that DEI was really not about black people. It was about white women who benefited more than anybody else. Again, black people have fought and died. I was watching another video by an Asian guy. Asians detest black people, just like Hispanics. But this particular Asian was making a point. There were two, and they were having a podcast. And he talked about how he has often spoke to his Asian compadres and telling them that the reason that you have what you have in America, the reason that you can do the things that you do in America is because of black blood. Black blood has been spilled for the rights of every other minority in America. Yet these same minorities, when black people said, don't vote for Donald Trump, we need you to support us, all of those minorities turned their backs on us. This is why I said last hour, and I've been saying for years, that I'm through going out marching. When they were having all those marches for the deaths of George Floyd and all this, tragic, no doubt. But I wasn't going out to march because we saw black people marching. It should have been white people marching and saying, we've had enough. We're looking now and seeing all of these town hall meetings of white people in red districts who are now losing their jobs because they voted for this bigot and racist. And by the way, Elon Musk, now all of a sudden y'all want, we're black people. We done with y'all. But what comes out of this boycott? What comes out of, look, and I'm not telling you not to boycott, because like I told you, I boycotted too. I've been boycotting. There are just some businesses, look, Cracker Barrel is one. Cracker Barrel was sued a few years ago for its racism against black people. They would always sit them at the worst tables, wouldn't serve them. And they were, in fact, I believe Cracker Barrel was sued twice. I believe that's correct. And they lost. You won't catch my black ass in Cracker Barrel. I don't even like the name Cracker Barrel. I don't go to Cracker Barrel. A friend of mine, and this was years ago, I was dating her, and she loved Cracker Barrel. We went to Cracker Barrel. She said, she said, meet me at Cracker Barrel. I said, why are you meeting there? So I went ahead and met her there. I didn't order. She said, why aren't you ordering? I said, I'll tell you when we leave. When I told her, she got perturbed at me. Oh, you take things too serious. Really? So what happens? What happens next? I've told you all about the boycott that I think we need to do. It will bring them to their knees. You're seeing Alabama alone. Alabama, their U.S. Congress lady is begging Donald Trump to do selective enforcement of these new rules, because Alabama is benefiting a lot from the National Institutions of Health with grant money. Alabama, the state of Alabama University, is the #1 employer in the state of Alabama. And a lot of that money is coming from federal grants. I'm just saying, folks, what happens next? I've been telling y'all for years that the most powerful weapon in the 60s was the economic boycott. And the economic boycott didn't last for one day. I want to say it went on for 2 years. I'll get you some details on that here in a little bit. Black people came together, they carpooled, they helped each other, they did not ride that bus. It wasn't until white people started feeling that economic pain that they decided that, hey, we need to go to the president, we need to talk to our congressman and say, hey, we need to do something. Subsequently, the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights legislation was passed. You see, we can't use a boycott as a fad. A boycott is a weapon that should be used on a regular basis. There's a group in Detroit, and I've seen them now for years on social media. I believe they're called New Era. And the recent video that I saw was they were blocking a local, because, you know, a lot of the Arabs, who again, benefiting from our blood, come over here and disrespect our people. And someone had stolen a bag of potato chips out of this service station and ran off. And that Arab pulled a gun and was shooting at this person. The group New Era went to this gas station and blocked it. You will not be working today. Even the police showed up. They calmly told him, no, he's not working today. This station is closed. We're shutting them down. In fact, New Era has shut down numerous stations, Arab stations in that era. In that area, I should say. I remember when Nashville had the flood, and I went to this Arab store because it was my neighborhood. My apartment was up on a hill. I could stand, and you can go out and look at my Facebook page. There's video of the Nashville flood. And I was in tears as I watched my neighbors' houses in this historic black community be floating down the street. So once the water subsided, I decided that I would take it upon myself, because people of all walks of life were coming into my community and helping to try and rebuild. I couldn't lift anything because of my back, but I knew something I could do, that because they had to walk down past my apartment in order to go to these houses that had been ravaged by this flood, by White's Creek. So I went to all the local grocery stores in the area and told them what I was doing. I said, could you give me some hot dogs? Could you give me some hamburgers? Could you give me some buns? Because I want to be able to give people, and some water and sodas. I want to be able to give people some food as they walk by my apartment, so they will have something to eat and drink. Most of the stores, in fact, all of them did, except there's one store that's set at the corner. And I asked the Arabs, I said, hey, told them They were fortunate that the way their store was set up, the water bypassed that store. They could have been wiped out too. Kroger's was a half a block up the street. I even went to Kroger's, and Kroger said, hey, tell us what you need. We'll be glad to help you. I put my barbecue grill, I got charcoal, and my house set up on a hill. I literally pulled that grill down the hill, down the driveway, set it in the yard, and grilled right there. And as people passed by, I gave them chicken wings, I gave them hamburgers, I gave them hot dogs, I gave them sodas, I gave them water. I even had potato chips. That Arab store said, we're not going to give you anything. I said, that's okay. I'm going to tell everybody in this community that you refuse to help, yet you make money off of this community. When I told him that, I walked out of the store. I got in my vehicle. When I was getting ready to pull out on Clarksville Highway. By the way, those of you who live in Nashville, you know the stories at Clarksville and Hamilton. He ran out. He said, hey, wait a minute, brother. We can help you. Apparently, someone was in the back who heard him. And when I went in, he gave me over $200 worth of merchandise. The power of the boycott. The question is, are we willing to sacrifice for freedom? We'll be back. When we come back, I'm gonna tell you again why I know the boycott that I'm suggesting will work. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from ReaRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RibRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes, SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products, but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils. And yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to SkinTentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. SkinTentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. Join us on all social media. We don't do X or Twitter. I'm gonna start posting on Blue Sky. I do have an account with Blue Sky. I've never posted, but that's where a lot of people are going. I'm gonna start posting on Blue Sky. I believe it's Blue Sky. Show you, I have never posted, but I know it's a new app. I believe it's Blue Sky. I have to look at my, let me see if it's on my phone here. I believe it's called Blue Sky. I think it is. Yeah, Blue Sky. So yeah, you can go out and check that out as well. I'm going to start posting on there, but also YouTube. I marched to 1,000 subscribers. We've never made a real push to try to get 1,000 subscribers. I just happened to look one day and I was at 639, I believe. So we are trying to get to that point. So please share, please like, and please subscribe as we make our push. Look, my birthday is May 13th. I'm hoping that we can get to 1,000 subscribers by my birthday. If you want to give me a birthday gift, go out and subscribe to Black Focus Radio. Okay. So, we were talking about the economic boycott that took place this past Friday and whether or not it would help. Did they hear you? Here's the thing that they know. You don't have anywhere else to go. So you're going to go back. I know. You are. You don't have anywhere else to go. So the question that I have for you, and I was talking about the University of Alabama and the money that they benefit from the NIH grants, and they are the largest employer in the state of Alabama. Most colleges are like that. Colleges and universities benefit from a lot of grant money. I'm a grant writer. I've assisted in helping a lot of organizations get grants over the years. Okay? So they benefit off of free money. A lot of people ask me, when I talk about sports in college, particularly football, here's a question that I like to ask. I shouldn't say a lot of people ask me. Why is it that all of these colleges have football teams? Have you ever asked that question? Having a football team is expensive. You got to carry insurance on players. You've got to buy equipment. You've got to have a field. You've got to recruit. You got to be able to get players to and from various venues across the state or country. Many colleges will say that they lose money or they don't make money off of football. Now, let me ask you a question. If you are a business and you have a product and that product is not selling, do you keep that product in your business? When at the height of my rib rub, when I first started, I used to have rib rub in grocery stores in Murfreesboro, parts of Nashville. And these were before all of the stores were bought out by conglomerates. I could go to the owners of these stores and say, hey, I'm Dave Coleman. I have a product. I'd love to be able to put my product in your store. And I talked to the owners, and the owners would say, okay, but if it doesn't, how am I going to know it's going to sell? And I tell them, look, I do radio. I'm going to plug your store. I'm going to plug it on social media, yada, yada, yada. And quite often, after about a month, they were calling me, hey, we're out of rub. Can you bring us some more? I was just doing the rub. I wasn't even doing the rib nuts, the rib juice, the rib dust, all of them. I wasn't even doing any of that. Okay? They would say, how am I going to know it's going to sell? Because they were saying that I can't give you shelf space for stuff that is not going to sell. You get this, right? So my question to you is, why would these colleges continually have football teams if, in fact, it didn't make the money? It does make the money in the form of grants. It makes money in the form of ticket sales. Remember, was it last week that I went through the list of colleges, the 205 colleges, and all the revenue that they had earned by the NCAA. This was just Division I colleges. You know, there are like 4 or 5 different levels of college sports. Remember that? You can go back and listen to the show. It's on YouTube. All of those colleges that had made millions of dollars. I think Ohio State, if I remember correctly, was the main one. I mean, the number one school. Even Arkansas was number 20 of all the money that he had made. You say, Dave, where are you going with this? Well, where I'm going is, if we are serious about stopping this racism, if we are tired of white corporations, then we need to boycott them with our children. You know, I'm going to talk about Elon Musk here in a minute, but you know what people are doing with Elon Musk right now? His stockholders must be going crazy right now. Because his car, the Tesla, the stock is down, people are turning them in. In fact, about 3 months ago, I almost bought a Tesla. No, it was last summer. They were offering me a good deal. The government was going to give me $7,000 because it was a car. It was an electronic vehicle. It was saving on, the energy footprint that was causing global warming. And I had to think about it, and I didn't. You see, if you want a boycott to be effective, then it has to be extended. You can't just boycott a segment and expect results. Because see, what happened in the Montgomery boycott, and by the way, that boycott was 381 days. It was over a year before white people finally capitulated. You have to send a serious message. And unfortunately, when you do a boycott, it affects not just the store or white supremacists, it affects us too. And as we head, it's March now, as we head into March Madness, in the next couple of weeks, you're going to get to see what I'm talking about. You're going to see little black boys, well, I should say young black men, running up and down a basketball court. And yeah, they're doing it for the glory of their school. White schools, by the way. What would happen if they didn't play? What would happen if they simply said, we're not going to play because you don't believe in black culture? What would happen? You see, that's the question that we need to ask ourselves, because remember, symbolism without activism is nothing. Is nothing. I've asked the question, are our young people as tough as their ancestors? Because see, our young people today are feeding off the tits of our sacrifices. You see, I remember going to Mitchell Elementary School, and there were only 3 white kids in that school, because Mitchell Elementary was segregated. I told you the story about the Little Rock Nine and my tangential relationship with one of the sister of one of the Little Rock Nine. Our parents were so good at not letting us know what was going on in the real world. I did not know that Karen Mothershed was the sister of Thelma Mothershed, who was one of the Little Rock Nine. I told that story last week on the show. Go out and check it out. I want to tell you this story real fast. And the brother is listening. He did go out and like the show and subscribe. And I appreciate you. But I met two brothers, young brothers. And as they talked, I listened, and they were talking about Baltimore and how Baltimore is not the same Baltimore it used to be, and how people were leaving Baltimore, and it's a shell of itself, and there's nothing to do, and this, that, and the other. I'm sitting there saying to myself, well, you know, I just moved here, and there's a lot of stuff to do. I think sometimes we have a different view of our home when we move away and come back. And then they decide to say, oh, gee, who are you? Who did you vote for? They said, you voted for Biden. You're a Democrat. I said, no, I'm not. You a Republican? No, I'm not. Well, what are you? Now, I'm paraphrasing, and if he's listening, I'm trying to keep from divulging who you were. I said, no, I'm an independent. An independent? Yeah, I'm an independent. What does that mean? And I told him, I don't vote for a party. Because when I told them before I told them that I was independent, they started ragging on the Democrats. And I started asking them, I said, did the Democrats take your Social Security? Is the Democrats taking Medicaid and Medicare? Is the Democrats giving the top 1% the highest tax break in the history of America? Oh, no. But as we talked, I could tell that these young brothers were somewhat informed, but not really informed. And then before we parted ways, I asked them, I said, hey, brothers, I said, if you really, and the reason I was telling them this, because they were talking to me as if they knew and I didn't. So I typically, when I speak to people, I don't tell them that I have a radio show, that I've been doing this for years, that I'm a journalist. But I finally told them, I said, hey, brother, I said, tell you what, the reason I know what I'm talking about is because I live this every day. I do this every day. Well, what do you mean? I said, I'm a journalist. I said, I'm a black journalist. And I told him, I said, hey, I don't trust the Democrats and I don't trust the Republicans. But in this dispensation of time, I trust the Republican Party even less. And before we parted ways, I said, hey, if you want to know more, listen to my show. He pulled it up and he said, I'm going to subscribe. And he did. More power to you, brother. Because those are the young brothers that we've got to reach. You know, we weren't fussing, we weren't arguing, we weren't calling each other out of our names or stuff like that. We were having a conversation which I could hear from them that they were not well informed. They had some information, but they were not well informed. Okay? And the fact that young brother did go out, subscribe to the show, tells me that he's looking for more information. This is a discourse that we've got to have. This is a discourse that we've got to have with our young brothers and sisters who are running up and down the basketball courts for white universities, for red states. You see, these red states in the South, like Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Many of these states cannot pay their own bills without the support of states like California and New York and Michigan, who are blue states. Yet they want to sit on their racist high horses and dictate what those states should do, even though that you are feeding off the tits of those states. Those states that I just named are 50, 49, 48, 47, 46 in poverty, in education, in health care, in prenatal care. You see, we have to educate our brothers who are playing for those states. I watch Roland Martin, and I love me some Roland Martin. But the other day I saw a video clip of him. He got all his Texas A&M gear on. Roland, if you're serious about boycotting, then you need to boycott Texas A&M. I heard a brother who said he was talking to a friend. We were talking, and he said he asked his child was about to graduate from high school, and he asked the brother, "Where are you going to school? Where are you sending your child to school?" And the brother said, "Well, I'm gonna send her to some state university." The other brother said, "Hey, why don't you send her to an HBCU?" You know what he said? He said, "If I send her to an HBCU, then she won't be able to get a good job." See, I've seen the problem, and the problem is us. That should have angered that father. That if he sent his daughter to an HBCU and he says that she can't get a job, that says that we have not arrived. Racism is alive and well in America. But that poor father didn't even get it. So yeah, we do need to boycott. We need to boycott every one of those colleges. We need to go to our young men and sit them down and say, hey, and women, because our young women are going to these schools as well, and say, hey, look, they are benefiting off of your labor. Now, I know they're getting NIL now, but guess what? Those people who participated in the Montgomery boycott, those 381 days, they still had to go to work. Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Elon Musk and something else that happened last week in Congress. It's called Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. On joynetradio.com.
Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at ReaRub.com. Holman's Dynamic Pepper Juice is lighting fires around the country. It's the new product from ReaRub.com. Use it on meats and vegetables. Add it to your gumbos and greens for an extra punch. Made with all natural ingredients, Coleman's Dynamic Pepper Juice will enhance the flavors of your favorite recipes. Order today on RibRub.com. And while there, be sure to check out some of our other great products. It's developed with love and care using the best all-natural ingredients with no GMOs or preservatives. From snacks to seasonings, Coleman's Dynamic Products has something for everyone. Bake it, grill it, smoke it. Oh yeah, at RibRub.com.
Hey, beautiful. You look gorgeous. Are you doing something different? There's a healthy glow about you.
Thanks. I'm just my natural self.
Come on. What's your secret?
Okay. Since I found SkinTentional.com, I've been getting a lot of those comments.
SkinTentional.com?
Yes. SkinTentional.com is handcrafted, luxurious natural baths and body care products. Crafted for those with a designer's taste for high-quality skincare products, but won't break your bank. From body butter to oils and soaps, SkinTentional has something for everyone, including the man in your life. Get your man some beard balm and oils. And yes, they offer body butters and soap for him as well, without making him smell like flowers. Go to skintentional.com and check out their amazing products. They believe self-care should be an intentional and joyous experience for all. Skintentional.com.
Pigskin, check. Round ball, check. Hard ball, check. Hockey puck, check. Burning rubber, check. We got it all on the weekly sports page with David Coleman. What else do you need? Did I say food? Can't have sports without food. What kind of show is this again?
A sports show.
Oh, okay. Pass me those rib nuts.
Yeah, we do have it all and a whole lot more with me, Dynamic David Coleman, on the weekly sports magazine.
Welcome back to Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us. Don't forget our March to 1,000 on YouTube. We're looking to try to get 1,000 YouTube subscribers. I need your help for that. We've got a short segment here, so I'm going to get right to it. Okay? So I've talked a lot about Elon Musk. I've been telling you all for years that Elon Musk is a racist Afrikaner from South Africa. Y'all didn't believe me. Y'all got enamored by, you thought, yeah, he's the richest guy in the world, but he doesn't really have money. He has stocks. Now, I'm not going to get into how all that works out, but he didn't create Tesla. He didn't create the electric car. A lot of you dumb people who don't do research don't even realize that. So Elon Musk is catching a lot of heat from a lot of people now, because y'all are beginning to realize that, see, rich people don't give a damn about nobody but rich people. I've been telling y'all that for years. I've always been fascinated about, why do we elect rich people to run the country? And when you go back and you look at the money that they earn off of stock tips. In fact, there's an app out now where it allows you to follow the same stock tips that congressmen and senators use, because that's how they make their money. But Elon Musk is a bigot and a racist. And that's why he and Donald Trump are so buddy-buddy. By the way, Elon Musk owes money to Putin as well. Did y'all know that? You know, if Elon Musk, if he was legitimate, why don't you got enough money? Just pay Putin off. Pay him. And then you don't have to deal with him. But he doesn't. The question is, why? So, Elon Musk is from South Africa. His father was a racist, participated in apartheid, and now Elon Musk is here in America. By the way, the irony is that he's from Africa. Donald Trump spent years proffering the lie that President Obama was not the legitimate president because he didn't have a United States birth certificate. And he was from Africa. Yet here we have a person from Africa who is not a legitimate American citizen. He's only here because of his money. Nobody's saying a word. There's an irony to that. But Elon Musk went to Donald Trump because the ruling party of South Africa, which is now black. See, you young people, you all weren't there when we were fighting apartheid, when we were assisting in apartheid. By the way, the same government that was enslaving and mass killing black people in South Africa, the Afrikaners, who Ronald Reagan supported with constructive engagement. He felt like, hey, all the other industrialized nations had divested from South Africa except Europe and the United States. Europe eventually did it. The only one that was left was the United States. And their argument was, well, if we keep talking to them, they'll finally give up on apartheid. No. You all don't remember when Nelson Mandela was freed You all don't, if you dare, go back and read the story of Stephen Biko. I told you the story about Kafir Boy, which was written by Mark Mathabani, who was from South Africa, who was able to get out of South Africa with the help of Arthur Ashe. Hello? So here we have Elon Musk, who is an Afrikaner who supports apartheid and is mad because the ruling government of South Africa is redistributing land to black people, the land that they are indigenous upon. So you know what Donald Trump did last week? He's attempting to open up a special visa for white South Africans to come to America at the behest of Elon Musk. Hello? Are y'all hearing me? See, this goes back to the beginning of the show when I talked about white genetic annihilation. Because, hey, we want to remember Donald Trump said we don't want people from those asshole countries, those black countries. Why don't we have more people coming to America from Scandinavia and Canada? Don't look like many Canadians are going to come now because Canadians are divesting in America as we speak. Kentucky is catching hell because you know who are the number one people who uses their bourbon? It's Canadians. They love them some bourbon. Canadians also invest a lot in real estate. They are divesting from real estate and selling those houses. Thanks to Elon Musk and Little Hands Man. I told you couldn't trust Elon Musk. When a lot of you all was just fawning at the bit about Elon and oh, he's so great and he's gonna help us with the energy crisis. What y'all talking about now? Oh, by the way, I need to read this to you because last week, what you all don't know is that $4.5 trillion tax cut just went to people like Elon Musk. By the way, y'all know Elon Musk makes $8 million a day from taxpayers, right? You also know that these agencies that he's killing and laying off thousands of people, he's looking for waste. Some of these same agencies that are paying him contracts, he's not touching those. Let me read this. You know, this was February 26th, last night, late last night. This was like 3 o'clock in the morning. After sending the press home saying there would be no vote. This is Speaker Johnson, who is one of the most despicable white men I've ever seen. There would be no vote, and hoping some Democrats would follow suit, House Speaker Mike Johnson turned around and held the vote on Trump's insane budget bill that included raising our debt ceiling by $4 trillion so he could give his donor class billionaires a $4.5 trillion tax cut. So who's going to pay the bills for this country? Us, you and I, the middle class. We will not get a tax cut. You and I, we ain't getting a tax cut. The bill does not mention tip workers or retired people getting the tax breaks that Donald Trump promised. You know all those lies he was telling y'all that y'all fell for? You white people and Hispanics and all you people crying these crocodile tears. I saw a video earlier today where this farmer, white farmer, sweet potatoes rotting in the field. It takes 200 people to pick his sweet potatoes. He had 5. And he was in tears. Sorry, black folks ain't coming to save y'all asses no more. We do not have the kind of money. So easy peasy, the bill just demands $2 trillion in cuts to mandatory spending instead. In other words, the bill that they passed, they decided that they were going to cut stuff that's mandatory. I'm going to tell you what those things are here in just a second. Hey, wait a minute. Does mandatory mean mandatory? Silly Americans. Words mean only what Trump says they mean. It says so right in his last executive order. Only he and his attorney general will interpret legal terms from now on, and he oversees and directs her. It says so right there. So what is mandatory spending? You know, the $4.5 trillion that he's getting ready to give to rich billionaires and millionaires. Here's what he's going to cut in order for him to be able to do that. Social Security benefits for retirees, disabled individuals, and survivors. Medicare, health care insurance for people age 65 plus and some disabled individuals. Medicaid, health coverage for low-income individuals and family. Income security programs include supplemental security income. Hello. Temporary assistance for needy families like TANF, food stamps, and unemployment benefits. Federal employees and military retirement benefits, pensions and benefits for retired government and military personnel, veterans benefits, disability compensation, pension and health care for veterans. House Speaker Mike Johnson said there would be no cuts to any of these in the bill. Sure, right. He did not mention any of these specifically in the bill. He just said there would be cuts to mandatory spending, figuring we would all be dumb, too dumb to know what that means. Mandatory spending means all of this. Okay? Republicans do not want you or your kids to go to college. You understand that, right? Oh, one more thing. He didn't mention the bill not only gets rid of student loan forgiveness, it will raise the rate by as much as $200 a month, according to the studies. Republicans don't want your kids to go to college. Why? Because college grads get paid more. They need a vast, uneducated, English-speaking workforce to replace farm workers and migrant labor. After their factory farming industries buy up all of the family farms that Trump's lies and Musk cuts will screw into bankruptcy. They need a vast, uneducated, English-speaking workforce to replace migrant labor for undesirable jobs like crop picking, meat and fish packing, janitorial, sanitation, and maid service for the same kind of money with no health benefits, retirement, or safety regulations. They need a vast, uneducated, English-speaking workforce so they can bring factory work back from Asia to America for the same kind of money with no health benefits, retirement, or safety regulations. Because if they need educated workers, they can bring them in cheaper on visas from countries like India and extort them with threats of deportation if they don't work longer hours with lower pay, with less benefits. This is a win-win for Trump, Musk, and the billionaire corporate donor class. And on that note, I don't even have to tell you what we must do. Y'all ready for your boycott? Are y'all serious? Then you need to go to your son and your daughter right now and say, hey, look, you need to start talking to your friends because we need to make a statement. And that means that we're not gonna entertain you. Because when we entertain them, they make billions. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's called Black Focus Radio, our issues, our solutions, our voices. Hit me up on blackfocus@gmail.com if you got a question, comment about the show. You can also go out to YouTube, make your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe as we march to 1,000 subscribers. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Black Focus, where we discuss our issues with our solutions and our voices. Join us every weekday afternoon at 1 p.m. on joynetradio.com.